some of us say, oh, how wonderful is it that Neptune will not have kerosene burnt anymore. Some people might say, oh, how wonderful, you're replacing kerosene. So everybody will look at it from a slightly different perspective. But believe me, there are beneficiaries, there are benefits, and there are real returns in the whole chain. Okay? So it's a fairly complex story to tell, but just trying to do justice to what what earlier said about how do you explain what these people do. Right? So you try to compartmentalize us into some name or some tag. That's why it gets complicated. Right? But I think something like an Edison story also helps because it is a complex situation to look at. Okay? I don't want to go. Let's look at the next. Let's look at this. I just wanted to sometimes these ideas that we have. So you say, well, okay, I can see it apply to the solar technology and the environmental technology, but does it apply to something quite different? Okay. So here's a picture of one of the World Heritage Sites in Kathmandu Valley. So Kathmandu Valley has 7 UNESCO World Heritage Sites and 2,200 monuments enlisted in the UNESCO list. It's a huge concentration of heritage sites. So this picture is from 1934. Okay, 1934, whereby the big earthquake struck Nepal, and so this was the state of our heritage in 1934. Okay, let's look at the next picture. So today it's already been recovered. Okay, so we've recovered every part of it. Now, how did we do this? Okay, now forget the solar, the technology part of it. There are many artisan families in the Kathmandu Valley, and so they continue to make trinkets, souvenirs, gifts for tourists. Okay, but you barely survive on that, because it's almost like charity, where when you travel to some remote areas or to different countries, you buy things almost out of sympathy, right? Because they brought us to this village in a big bus, and so all the villagers ran out and they bow down to you, so you cannot go empty-handed, so you buy something, which is a very strange charitable notion. So we said, what does it take to recover a monument like this? And here is what we did. We said, look, the pricing of these structures is a key part that we have to understand. It's the market that we have to understand. So if you are an artisan and the only skill you have is to do your artistry, which is your traditional occupation, okay? So if you come and restore this building, you get paid price 1. So P1 is the price. Okay? The revenue for that comes either from tourist fee or visitor's fee, but also we are able to do some fundraising. So for example, one of the things you see me doing in Kathmandu is taking Prince Charles on a walk to Kathmandu. So he goes back to London and raises money for it. Okay? The last big person I had was Orlando Bloom, walking through me in Kathmandu. He goes back and raises some money. So that's fundraising. Okay? But the real thing is, once you work these structures up, tourists come and they pay. Okay? UNESCO comes and they want to protect it. So there's huge value in this kind of work. But if you restore a monument, the artist, let us say, makes money for 3 to 4 months. Now what happened? You take this money and you want to open a DVD store. But that's not very helpful. So we said, what can we do for these people for the rest of the year? So we created a second-tier market. And the second-tier market was basically tourists and expats, but also the high-end Nepali market that wanted to build homes and their gardens using traditional elements. So by diversifying the market into a local but high-end market, we created E2. And so suddenly the artisan who was employed only for 4 months is now employed for 6 to 8 months. Then we said, well, what can we do for the remaining 3 to 4 months? Because still they are not employed. And that's when we create a North American market, a European market, a Japanese market. And in that market, and later on I'll show you, I brought the publication. For those of you who are interested, you can look at these catalogs and things, or even the website, where through the web, you can market a lot of stuff. So just look at this. This is my latest catalog, for what the artisans produce, and this is really high-end stuff. Okay, and the target is corporates around the world who make these orders. Okay, so now what happens is the skill set in order to preserve this is one kind of market. The second market is for the high-end Nepali market, that want to build houses and things like that. But the third market is, say, outside the country and the global market. Now the point is, if you just say P1, price 1, it is not sustainable. So it is sustainable only when you do P1 plus P2 plus P3. So with the 3 different markets, finally we have artisans who come and say, I used to do this, I was about to quit, but now the volume of the work has increased so much that my brother, who was working for a cement factory, has come back to do this. Or we don't need to send a member of my family to Dubai to do manual work. We can continue to do what our family traditions do. Okay? So I hope you get a pattern that it's not the solar or it's not the technology, but you can also apply it to something quite different, which is the urban environmental context. And in this case, preserving the heritage and preserving an identity. Okay. Can we go back? At some point I'll tell you, you go back to the biology. So, the problem with telling stories is that there was a classroom, and so the teacher asked the students, can you give me an example of an amphibian? So a smart student raised his hand and said, a frog. So the teacher said, can you give me another example of an amphibian? So another smart student raised his hand and says, another frog. So you have to be careful that it's not another story and another story. That there is a pattern that you have to understand, and so it's not the stories that are very important. So this is a very familiar technology here. It is a methane gas plant. Okay? A methane gas plant or a biogas plant, or in South Asia we call them a gobar gas plant. Okay? A simple technology. Now, the reason why this technology is so popular and famous is not because of what the technology does, but because we are trying to solve a very major problem. Okay? So can you go back to the tiger? Yeah. So now look at this, biogas and tigers, right? Very strange combinations. So Nepal is one of those countries. In 1972, we protected about 11% of our land area as national parks, as a home or habitat for the wild elephant, wild tiger, and the wild rhinos. Okay? So as the population increased, there is a huge demand for the land outside the protected areas. And so people came and settled outside the park boundaries, and we had what we would call a park and people conflict. Okay? So what is the conflict? The conflict is that people needed to go inside the forest in order to get fuel wood and to graze their animals. So these are the two demands that people have. Okay? Now, how does the technology itself work? The technology is simple because you take animal manure and you put it into a digester, okay? And you get methane gas out of that. Now the methane gas basically goes into the house, and one pipe goes to the kitchen for cooking, and the other pipe goes to the light so that you can light a butane lamp. Okay, so you have both light and cooking gas. So simple. Now why is it linked to park and people? A, you have your own fuel, so it makes it redundant for you to go into the park to steal firewood. So there is no need for firewood anymore. But more important than that, because the technology works on animal manure, you have to stall feed your animals so that you have manure. So you cannot take them into the national park to graze them anymore. Because your key ingredient to run this technology is manure. Okay, so you have to stall feed them. Which means you have to grow a high quality of fodder and feed your animals right at home so that they don't go into the park. So what an amazing solution, right? You have a park and people conflict. People want fuel and grazing. And here you have a technology, amazing, which produces fuel and makes it compulsory for you to stall feed your animals. So how great is that? Well, now listen to the story. So let's just go to the technology itself. Now look at this. So it's a simple technology. That's a digester in the middle. There's a feeder and then the slurry. Okay? The slurry would be once the manure is digested. So it comes out, and it's high in nitrate, phosphate because the anaerobic digestion. Okay? So the system is that you would feed the manure in it. It will produce the gas, and then the slurry, which is very high nutrient, is then mixed with the irrigation canal so that the organic manure is spread in all the fields. So that agricultural productivity also goes up. Okay? The problem with this is that, let me tell you the story. I built the first 10 as a prototype. And it was extremely difficult to get the 10 families to volunteer to build it. You know why? We gathered the villagers, I explained everything to them, and they said, nothing doing, we're not going to build it.